So Velric is getting released alongside with Summer Kilfei, and I feel like he's released 2 months too late. If he had been released right after or at the same times as the Final Fantasy X collaboration, he might have been a good enough unit to fit in the meta for a while, but right now he's too little too late. Today we'll take a look at his kits, his abilities, how to use him, where he's strong, where he's weaker, and my overall verdict. But I'm telling you right now, I don't think he's a good pull for really anyone. So let's dive in. So, Velric is a physical attacker. He's a Nightblade pugilist soldier, so he's got a lot of attack loaded in there. He enables slash attack by building chains and also increasing slash attack for his allies, and he's got a really cool gimmick where he has both healing power up for himself and abilities that heal him back. So he's designed to stay on the feet for a long while just by recovering his HP anytime he takes a hit. But he's gonna struggle with killing enemy tanks. He has very little defense penetration, ranging from 25 to 45 if he has his own buff on, and he has no way to break barriers, so not the best attacker to deal with the enemy tanks. He also struggles with mobility and height. He has a move and jump of 3-1 and no way to increase that. And then his longest height range ability has a height range of 2, but it's melee range right in front of him. If you want to hit somebody from afar, you only have a height range of 1, which can be a pretty serious issue. He's the second permanent pool unit with an Ice Master ability, so that's pretty fun. It might be a reason to go for him if you're all into Ice and you love that a lot. And then a little bit of defense penetration, like I just said, in his Master ability. Now, his TMR is one of the best. If you don't have Cecil at 99, you probably want this TMR just because you finally have something to farm bravery by yourself. So if you equip this on your guy and go in auto mode, they're going to be casting that ability, and it's going to increase bravery for your team. And even in combat, really, 500 HP, 10 defense, 10 accuracy, and an AoE defense increase is really good on a piece of gear. So just for that, he might be worth building if you randomly pull him eventually, but I would not pull a unit just for their TMR. It's also worth mentioning that this is considered an armor, so not everybody's going to be able to use this TMR. You'll need somebody with heavy armor access. So if we're looking at his stats, we're going to compare him with Oron and 9S because they're all bruisers designed to either support their team or deal damage while staying on the field for a long time. Velric is just the same. He's got roughly the same stats as Oron. He's got a little bit less attack, a little bit more agility, and then what Oron has that's a major edge on Velric is 10 Spirit, which means he can actually fight mages way better. Velric is good against any kind of physical attacks, right? He's got slash resist positive, missile resist, but also a little bit of pierce and strike, and he's weak to magic. So in Black Witch Helena era, it's a little bit iffy. He's got blind and sleep resist. Meh. A little bit of disable resist is a good thing though, especially if you end up facing an enemy King Mont. Spoiler alert, avoid fighting King Mont with this guy. So overall, these are good stats for an attacker. He'll be fairly bulky, but it's nothing out of this world compared to units we already have in the game right now. And then he's a guy you absolutely need to get to 120 in my opinion. Not because of the stats, right? You're not missing out on that much, roughly 400 HP and 30 attack, but you will miss out on his 120 ability, which I think is a must to run him in a team. So let's look at abilities right now. So the first thing that might redeem him and actually make him a good unit is his Limit Break. This specific attack has a defense penetration of 40, which means with this one hit, you can actually hit a tank really hard if they don't have a barrier on. It deals large damage and has a 67% base chance of disabling. We've seen the power of those 67 base chance limit burst. For example, King Mont's Berserk on his limit burst has a high chance to proc, and it basically always berserks your guys. So this is a single target version that disables, but it's really good if you land it at the right time or on the right target. Now, I don't pretend to say this is as strong as King Mont's Limit Burst, for example, which can do it in an AoE, but at least it's some nice utility. However, you're only going to use that if you have bells, or you're going to use that if you don't have bells, but then be out of AP for the rest of the fight. So there's a huge price to pay if you want to use this ability. Then if we're looking at his passives, his first one, Nightblade Mastery, is top tier for him and you will always want it on. It increases his attack, accuracy, healing power, and decreases nothing because he doesn't care about evasion. Healing power is especially good. Any healer targeting him is going to heal him for more, so that's good, but mainly his drains and other abilities that help him recover HP will recover even more thanks to that, so that part's really good. And then it depends what you want him to do. If you want him to stay in the fight longer and tank more, you'll equip the Fighting Spirit one with HP and attack, and if you want him as an assassin, somebody that's going to one-shot people and deal a lot more damage, you're going to want the Self-Sacrifice for more attack, but that's at the expense of your resistances, so you are going to make yourself a lot more squishy if you do that, especially against magic, because keep in mind, he has minus 10% magic resist. With that on, he's now at minus 18% magic resist, which is really terrible. Then in terms of counter abilities, I prefer the one that builds an ice chain of 2 hit because it's going to make your next turn stronger. But don't get me wrong, all of these counter abilities suck. The reason being, they are melee range. The enemy needs to be next to you and try to hit you for you to have a chance to counter. That never happens in War of the Visions. Even characters with swords attack from range for some reason, so enemies will very rarely be in your face trying to hit you, which means you'll almost never get a chance to counter. Do not bet on those. Velric is our second Nightblade main job, so we know her kit from LCRL, right? He's got Stun Blade, that's pretty good, damage, chance to stun, he can increase Pierce and Missile Res, he has an AoE attack that decreases healing power, that one's really good. He can increase Slash attack and his own defense penetration, but even with that 20 up, he's only at 45, and most top tiers attackers right now have 40% base penetration just in their passives, so he needs a buff to just keep up with those. He has the Drain Rush, which is really good, right? 3-hit attack, so chain building, and then heals him back for 60% of the damage done at +1 range compared to the usual Drain Rush when you EX him. That makes him pretty strong. That's the whole reason why he can stay into a fight for a long time. Coupled with his 120 ability, which gives him a 3-hit physical barrier, so it's basically Saintly Wall. So his main role now, we can see, he's going to use a barrier turn 1, start moving towards the enemy team, and then by the time his barrier is worn out and he's lost some HP, he's going to start using Drain Rush to heal himself back. That's the whole way this character plays out, and for that, he's pretty good. But we'll take a look at some other weaknesses in a short while. And then, if you want to equip the Nightblade sub-job, I think it's mainly going to shine in a manual PvP setup, because AP Drain is just so strong. You have the ability to disable, basically, an enemy by reducing their AP to 0 in some circumstances, and that is super strong. Then Spinning Slash is his highest mud ability, so it's his hardest hitting move if you ever need it. Now, here's the thing about these moves. They are all height range 1, and this guy does not have jump, so he's going to struggle with hitting enemies on either higher or lower ground. The only exception is Maiming Slash, which has a height range of 1, but an AoE height of 1 as well, so you could potentially get the right angle and hit somebody 2 height away. Outside of that, he's really going to struggle with height. His Pugilist subjob has one move with a height range of 2, so let's take a look at that. Yeah, it's his Demon Purger ability, which is right in front of him. So even though it's a really good ability with super high damage, with a move of 3, when are you ever going to get a chance to use that in a real fight? It's going to be tough. I like the Pugilist sub-job. You can increase your max HP, increase your tankiness, you've got a hit and move ability, you can heal yourself back in an off turn, and decrease the enemy's attack. It's overall a very solid sub-job, and I would equip that if I don't plan on using the AP Drain, but it does not solve his height issues all that much. And then the Soldier sub is honestly pretty terrible when you don't have Drain Force, right? You're gaining access to high mud abilities, but you're sacrificing some HP for that, and you need HP if you want to survive, right? He's a guy that's supposed to stay on the field for a long time, not be a glass cannon. So these moves just don't fit his kit very well, I think. So let's look at a standard build for him, right? He's got about 1400 attack, which is top tier, so he's gonna hit really hard. He's got okay agility and decent physical bulk, with 42 defense, going to 57 if he's a pugilist and uses his own defensive buff. I would partner him with other bruisers or other people that can increase his own defense. If you're pairing him with 9S, he's gonna increase your defense and spirit, or increase your offense, right? There's got a couple good synergies in there. Tidus will give him haste and give him cheer, which are really good buffs. I think on Velric, something like haste is especially important because taking an extra turn means healing. So if you're lapping the enemy, you can probably fold your life out in between 2 of their turns, and then you'll flat out win your duels. So having haste is going to be really critical for him. Otherwise, someone like Gilgamesh with slash resistance down is just going to enable Velric that much more because his best moves are all slash oriented. I would avoid fighting King Mons, fighting Rains, and other fire units. They are just so strong against ice. And then King Mont has good slash resistance, good ice resistance. You're gonna struggle killing him. You could potentially go Pugilist and try to get him down, but I would not get my hopes up against this. Also, Black Witch. He does not have a lot of spirit, and even at 50 faith, I think well-built Black Witch Helena is going to one-shot Velric most of the times, and if you're lucky to survive the first hit, the second one will get you down for sure. So it's not a great matchup for him. So yeah, since most of the meta units are in the avoid category, not the best unit to pull on right now. So, my overall verdict, well, I like his supporting kit. Like, unlike Oron, he actually buffs his team, not just himself, so that's a good thing. He's got top tier attack, so he's gonna do really well against squishy characters. You're fighting a wannabe bruiser that doesn't really have a barrier or a lot of defense, you're gonna go through them in a single hit with that amount of attack, so that's really good. If you're using him for raid or other kind of content with your other ice units, well, he's got the 3-hit ice/chain, which is gonna be really good in enabling the rest of your team, and he's self-sustainable, which in some builds could be really funny. Maybe in Guild War, if you want him to survive for the second fight, that could lead to some interesting builds. But overall, bottom tier mobility with 3 and 1, not a lot of height range options, so he's really gonna struggle with elevation, doesn't have that much defense penetration, right? 25 base is not enough to be considered a top tier attacker nowadays, right? We'll soon get Cloud with a mastery ability that has 60 just from one passive. And doesn't have barrier breaks either, so overall, his ability to deal with tanky characters is just really low. So he's going to be there in their face, but unless you're playing manually and you have the threat of the AP drain, people could even ignore him if he's not doing enough damage. So, if we look at it by game mode, I mean, for PvE, he's not necessary, but he will enable ice teams, so for an ice-oriented challenge, I think he would do really well. Let's give him a 6 out of 10. For Arena, well, if you manage to find a team that doesn't have a King Mont, you might have a chance. Also, avoid Black Witch and probably Dwayne. Oh yeah, let's just give him 5. Guild Battle, he might do a little bit better, so if you manage to scout the enemy team and place him in front of somebody he can actually fight, he's going to be really healthy for his second fight. He's either really high in health or dead, that's the way I see him. So he might perform well, but overall not something I would recommend at 6 out of 10. Manual PvP. If you dislike campers, do not run him. He will never reach an enemy team that tries to avoid you because he just can't move. So yeah, 3 out of 10. Auto PvP, well, at least the AI does not camp very well, so you'll eventually get to them and try to hit them. I'll give it 1 more point there. So I think I've been pretty clear. I'm gonna skip the guy. I don't see anything in there that's super interesting, which is sad for me because Ice Master ability is something I wish I had. I don't own any other unit that has it, but we're gonna have to wait for something else in the future. So that's it, guys. Hopefully you found that interesting. Am I missing something here? Is he that terrible? I've watched some JP footage. He does not impress me at all. So yeah, I would be curious to hear you guys' thought on that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and then we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.